Thank you for coming out, and it's a very good privilege to be here this evening, to be enshrined with all of the past Hall of Famers and today's Hall of Famers. And it's good to hear the stories of the Winslow community. I get to meet the person that broke my record. Stood for 20 years. Congratulations. And your relay. And there's a little story behind that too as well, because a person that came from your community, Olympian Dennis Mitchell, we also ran on a relay for the Willingboro Track Club back in '83. We ran a 3:10.66 in Ohio, my last meet. So it's just good to see that that program is continuing. I first want to just thank God, and I want to thank my parents. My parents have been gone respectively for 19 and 20 years. My father, who served in the military for 25 years, he was my hero. At the age of 3, I grew up in Brussels, Belgium. My father served under 3 generals, and he did transportation. And so I seen so many things that he used to tell me, don't tell people because they won't believe, but they won't believe you. But I grew up speaking 2 different languages. And so I was one of the kids that was saying the Pledge of Allegiance and trying to figure out what the United States was all about. Because I hadn't seen my family, because at the age of 3, when you're going over there, you don't know who your family and your friends is, and you don't understand what's going on in the United States. So when I finally moved back, and they bought a house, and when I was like 4 years old, we came back and we moved back. And we finally came back around about 1974, and then I was on the Willingboro Track Club. And that was the stage, the start for me to learn about the United States and just have families and friends support. Also, at the same time, I'd like to really thank my aunts and uncles who is here today, my father's brothers and sisters. They gave me so much love and support over the years that they taught me family life. And with that family life, it also helped me to have a wonderful marriage to my wife, Debbie Samuels there, and all of my kids, Lawan, Isaac, and Samaya. They're not here because they're under NCAA. They had a track meet this past weekend. But all of my kids, like I said, were state champions, and I'm just so privileged that they took that and got scholarships from that. I'd like to thank my father-in-law for being supportive of my whole family and being there, watching me through my coaching. That's so important. But to get to the real story, I want to talk about the people who have helped me along the line. And Mrs. Lewis, I tell you, from the time that I met her at 8 years old, so it's 44 years ago, okay, what she did with me, she also done with my kids. I have a daughter that in the last 2 years, she was #1 in the world for a world junior record. Not a world junior record, but she was #1 for world juniors, and she went to the Pan American Juniors and won a long jump, jumping 21.3. But the thing about it was, when she first started, she was terrible. She didn't even want to run until she saw the Olympics in 2004. And Mrs. Lewis talked to her on the phone, and she guided us from 2004 till she graduated in 2014. And 2016 when she graduated. So, Mrs. Lewis, I just wanted to say thank you for continuing your spirit and the efforts and the love that you have, not only through my family, but what you've done in track and field in general throughout the world. And I just really appreciate that. It's been a long time coming to be here because, like the gentleman was saying, Willingboro, everybody knows just one school, but the first school that recognized track and field in South Jersey is Kennedy. And many of the Hall of Famers that are here, whether they're coaches, Fred Rucker, for example, he was one of my coaches back in 9th grade. And the thing is, Gary Jankowski, he is one of the most gifted management coaches that I ever met, because I had a neglected background in running track. And so I can run everything from the 60 all the way to cross country. And so when we did meets, he specialized in managing me and not utilize me. Many athletes, great athletes that come out of high school these days, they get burnt out because they don't have the right coaches that manage athletes. And he was so excellent and superior in that. And I thank him for doing that with me, because I learned from you, and a lot of the things that I utilize in athletes now comes from you. So I really thank you so much for me having you to watch you do the things that you've done. And we won 2 back-to-back championships. I think we probably the first track program to do that outdoors, to do back-to-back. And I just love every bit of that. Jerry Mathis, I want to talk to Jerry Mathis. Jerry Mathis is a guy that, to this day, in track and field, there's no youth that I've found out yet that have jumped 6 times in a row national age group champion from 1976 to 1982. During that time, and he's younger than me, but he was pretty much my motivator at that time, because Carl Lewis wasn't really doing that good, and Carol, she was just coming about it. But I thank you so much for being there, Jerry. You know, because we were like brothers, and we were basically going all around the country, and everybody knew whenever they did whatever age group, he was younger than me, and I was the next age group, we would always kill it and win it. So I thank you for your guidance, and I also thank your parents for being volunteers on the track club for so much, and your father also, he's been an official for over 30 years. And lastly, I just want to say I have some original track and field Willenboro Track Club athletes that started with me in 1974. One guy flew from Florida, the other guys right here from New Jersey, Anthony Williams and John Straubs. I appreciate you guys coming out to support. But one last story I just want to say to you about my coach who's not here. Rest in peace, Bill Lewis. Many of you may have gotten to know him. That's Carl Lewis, his father. He was a unique man, but one of the things that I'm really proud of is the cross-country experience that I had. When I just entered in high school, I didn't even know what cross-country was, because when he asked me to do cross-country, I told him to ask my parents, because if we're going to travel, you need to get with them. He said, oh, no, that's just 3 miles. So anyway, I started off running with a gentleman that's here, one of the great distance runners, who's on our track club as well, Vance Watson. And we were all sophomores, and I used to come in after him and another guy named Herb Gordon. But towards the end of the year, I got faster and faster and faster, and so we finally went to Pennsauken, Group 4, Pennsauken meet, and it was raining and it was cold that day, and I hadn't did nothing special, but I said, this is my last meet, I want to get in the top 30 and move on. And so while we was taking off our clothes, Mr. Lewis come up to me and he said, Ike, look at me in the eye. If you run with this guy, if you run with Bill Talbot, you run with Ray Johnson, you run with these guys, you be in the top 10. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to get in the top 25 to 30. But he was telling me that, and I'm looking at him like he's crazy. So anyway, and he said, make sure that you blow hard. Every 20 steps after the first mile, blow out hard. Like that. So I'm looking at him, I'm like, okay. So when we run the race, I'm actually running, and then the second mile came up, and I'm running with Ray Johnson, and then I'm blowing out, and I'm like, man, I'm really blowing out hard, because I needed to do that. So as a result of that, Ray Johnson stopped running, and all of a sudden when he stopped, we're out in the open, and we got to do this one lap around the track. So Bill must have heard something on the radio that I was there, and I remember him taking off his poncho, and he was trying to run on the track, and the officials was like, you can't go on the track, you'll be disqualified. So what he did was, he ran around, he was like 50 yards ahead of me, and he kept saying, Ike, run past these other guys. I was in the top 10 at the time. And so I ran about 3 guys down, I wound up getting 5th place. And so after I got 5th place, he comes and takes this little stick, and he's like, we did it. Then he said, we're going to the States. And so now I'm on the fence. He's on the fence too, because he just got finished running the 400. And he's the age that he was is the age that I am right now. So I was like saying to myself, wow, coach, you okay? I went to go turn in the ticket, came back, and I got some Gatorade because I still seen him on the fence. So I came back, and he wore glasses, took his glasses off, And he looked at me and I didn't know if he was crying or what. Just rain was just coming down. And so I said, Mr. Lewis, drink this. He drank it. And then he still looked like he was still holding on there. So I said, Mr. Lewis, put your hands up. Blow out like this. Listen, God bless. Thank you very much. And I'm proud.